Hello world, Frida Reba Darcy and Patricia O'Connor here, and yeah, it has. It's been a minute. I've had a little bit of catch up to do on what's been going on with me lately, but as of Friday, yesterday, I'm going to take a couple of weeks off of work for some stuff that's coming up on the 6th of July, and between now and then, just one or two little things to do between now and the 4th. So we've got pretty light duty. This is a good time to do some catch up. And this is our Saturday drop. We're gonna call this a Super Saturday drop. That's what we're looking at here. So yeah, how about these trees? These guys are doing okay. Everybody on the balcony is looking pretty good. What I'm going to start off with today is a little talk about putting on the brakes. In our last, within like the last, maybe just over a week ago, our temperatures were kind of up there. We had some 90-degree days. And we had some dieback from our Dawn Redwood, which is still our modus operandi for this was to do nothing. And so far that's paying off. The parts that were about to sprout out when this happened are continuing to sprout out. And anyway, I'll get more on the treatment of this in a minute. But to say the least, just about a week ago, it was really hot. And when it stopped being really, really hot, it was still moderately hot. 80 degrees, 85 degrees, stuff like that. So it's been warm for a minute, but then about the time we thought we were tired of it, it did too, and it put on the brakes. And it has been in the low to mid 60s every day for the last, I would say 4 days, probably 4 days. So when we were in our 80s and our 90s and everything was heating right up, we were watering these trees and they were soaking up that water, and the leaves they were transferring that water directly to the leaves, and we would come back later in the day and we would check on them again and see how they're doing. And quite oftentimes we might give them another little drink. So that was what we were doing then when it was super hot. However, when you then get a switch of routine, and I don't mean routine because really a water routine is something I'll try to avoid using that as a phrase. I don't really believe so much in watering routines because those will get you in trouble. For just this reason, if you would have gotten up every morning and filled up your water bucket like you are just going to go out here and water these guys because that's and it's really easy to find yourself doing that because that's what you're going to be doing most of the time. Then at some point, it may take you a minute to realize that the uptake on these trees has greatly slowed down. Doesn't mean that anything's wrong. It just means that the temperatures that we've been having the last couple of days have not been conducive to the movement of water. So, for instance, when I had dieback on this, the first thing I did when I came in from being in the city and found that it was having this dieback was I made the observation that the pot at the time was not dry. However, it was hot, so we cooled it down anyway. And some of the other trees were dry, and so everybody got watered, and everybody did pretty well. So we were moving a lot of water But then when the water slows down, or when this tree lost all of its foliage, it lost its ability to move all of that water that it had been transpiring before. Because just prior to that, it had a lot of foliage on it. It was probably a little overgrown. It could have maybe had a little bit of a cutback, but I wasn't about that. I was just letting it just flush out as much as it could. We'd sort it out later, kind of an idea. So with now all of that foliage gone, its ability to move that much water is also gone. And the feeling is that with it just gotten really super hot and freaked out, you kind of want to just take extra care of it, which, like, you're kind of limited to what we do, So when I came in and the tree was probably still 1,000,000,000,000 degrees, running cool water over the roots to try to stop that damage probably was a good first move. Past that, we have to watch how much we water a tree once it's already been burned, because its ability to move water from then on has been greatly diminished because of the fact that it no longer has the leaf count that it had before. So then even a Dawn Redwood that likes to have its feet wet, so to speak, can be overwatered quickly when that isn't something that you would have had to worry about so much in the past. That was something that I had to go through last summer. When we had dieback, I wanted to make sure that it stayed hydrated and the water was just still sitting there, but every day I would still add some and the water was just sitting there. And before long, we ended up with roots that had probably never really got a chance to air out in between their waterings. And that's always going to be important for just about any bonsai tree, with maybe the only thing I know of that's an exception is the bald cypress, and to a lesser extent the wisteria. But even then, when in the summer when we leave our wisterias in vats of water, the benefit to that, whether we even know what it is or not, is that it's pruning the bottom of the tray. It's pruning the part that's in the water will die back, and that's kind of like self-pruning. And that's something you're supposed to do to help get them to bloom. And you can see my wisterias are in trays of water, especially my Japanese wisterias. So the point to all of this is when our temperatures took a dive from 85, almost 90 to mid to upper 60s, we came through and watered everything as it needed to be watered. And then the next day we came out and looked to have a little look to see what needed to be watered. And then having looked, we didn't water. The day after that, we watered, which was yesterday. And it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and you can see the top dressing on my bald cypresses. I think this is registering pretty well. It's only now that even just the top dressing is only now starting to dry out a little. The Dawn Redwood probably could use some water, but it doesn't show really that it needs it. We just have not had the temps to necessarily bring out that high need for water. We still are moving some, and also it's been pretty breezy, and that will cause the trees to move water as well. But this little temperature inversion or whatever it is we're looking at right now, it's kind of slowing down our growth somewhat. I'll be glad when things get back to a little bit more. They don't have to be 1,000,000 degrees. I'm not asking to be cooked here. Yeah, but anyway, all of our trees are looking really well. This is a little quick look at our oak. Nothing has been watered yet today. You can still see that the soil, for instance, on my coastal oak, it is absolutely doesn't need watering. As the pines, they still all look good to go. Those two did get watered yesterday, and they wouldn't need it today normally anyway. To any friends of mine who this summer or this spring has found themselves new to the pines, or the Japanese black pines, or just pines in general, I so far have ventured into two varieties: Japanese black pines and ponderosa. So black pine, ponderosa, and for what I've seen, these guys are as a rule, they are really hardy, and they're not as difficult, or they can be intimidating. I'll say that I was intimidated a little bit, but I'm not easily intimidated. But I started off with some pretty nice trees, and when I had a couple of years of things going well, that does kind of feel like like things are going well. But as some of you know, last year I went through a period. You know how, like they say, a brave man dies once, but a coward dies 1,000 deaths. I thought I killed this tree, and I was so sure that I'd killed this tree last year that in my mind, this tree is a ghost. So I've already killed it once, and now look at it. It's doing very well. And it's not doing very well because I just forgot about it. It's doing well because I ran in circles and screamed and shouted and do all the things that one does when one's in doubt. So in this case, run in circles, scream and shout meant that I gave it a systemic treatment, which is something that you water into it a couple of times a year. It's basically going nuclear against any type of pestilence or bacterial problems that you may have. And it's not a bad idea to look at it for a part of your once or twice a year treatment. Also, fertilizing these guys goes a long way, and know when to fertilize and when to stop. Basically, for this guy is coming back from what we had last year. So it is still getting fertilized, but like for instance, its little sister right here next to it, 17 years from seed. This guy is not getting fed, nor are my other little Japanese black pines, because we have decandled these guys, and if we feed them now, the candles that they make in response to that will be longer, when the point for us cutting the candles is to have it make shorter needles. So just little things like that. It's not really complicated. It's pretty basic. If we were feeding it now, whenever it made new needles to replace the candles that we cut off, it would use that fertilizer as energy to make those new needles real long. There's where I just messed up, but I'll give that. That wasn't much. We'll give that to the ponderosa. The ponderosas, we grow differently. We let them make all the things they want to make, and then by increasing the needle count, that will over a course of a couple of seasons healthy the tree right up, while at the same time having a reverse effect and shortening the needles that way. It simply can't continue to make needles as long as they used to be. I'm plucking needles off of this black pine while I'm doing that. It simply can't continue to make needles as long as they used to be if it continues to make more and more of them. And as you see all these little bud sites on this ponderosa, that's because it's producing more buds and it's producing more needles, because it's back budding, because we are feeding it and watering it and giving it everything it needs just to be really happy. And that's what it looks like when it's really happy, more so as this continues, but at some point the needles will start to get a little shorter than the last year's needles. At some point, our 3-year needles will be the longest needles on the tree, I suppose, and then after that, we can't cut that off, because what we cut off then would be the only shorter needles. But when they work their way out, after that we can start pruning back. Like for instance, I'll show you on the larger tree. We would come back as back here the needles work their way into getting shorter. We could come through here with scissors and cut the ends off here, bringing the length of our branches back that way. And that's just some of the differences. And I've talked about this in the last couple of videos, but I think that I don't think a lot of my viewers are probably doing a lot of ponds. I've had them ask me in the past, whenever I do something, to do that on camera, when I had been worried in the past about trying to do things one-handed or not having a tripod or something like that. So I would just kind of do it and show you what I had done and explain it. So I was kind of trying to get a little better about that. But I probably wasn't going a long way towards empowering anybody to grow these, because I wasn't showing anybody me actually doing anything to them. But it isn't really that much. One thing is, if you go in to mess with it and you go in this way, you'll do that to the needle. And once you do that to a needle, it'll make a bar right here where it just got bent over. And it may die from there up, but it'll have a red band where that happened. So that's why they tell you to try to come in from underneath. And you don't really think of yourself as, I'm trying to be respectful with the trees and stuff. But when somebody saw one of my pine trees right after I got one, like 6 months after I got it, they saw my tree and they said, yeah, when you go in, you want to reach underneath it. I can see where you're tearing those needles up. And I'm like, well, I'm not, but they were right, I was. So also, you'll sail along with everything going really nice. And then for no apparent reason, it seems like you'll have needles that start to change colors. There can be all kinds of reasons why needles change colors on a pine. You can be overwatering it, which takes a long time to kill a pine tree by overwatering it as a rule. If you submerge it, yes, but no, if you just are watering it and you water it a little too much, it would take, the needles will yellow, but it would take a long time to kill it that way. You would kill it quicker by underwatering it. A really hot day and an underwatered tree, and you could very well lose that guy in one day. Also, like right now, we can see quite a few yellow needles on here, but we also see quite a few green, waxy needles that are like halfway extended out. And what we have right now going on is a little needle exchange, new to old. So yeah, I'm kind of thinking about this more right now as far as topics go, because having just walked Frida a little while ago, these trees, the ones you see here, they look pretty good, but the ones in the front have really long needles like loblollies, and they almost look like they're not doing well, when in fact they're doing fine. And it's because it's exchanging its needles out. So there are new candles in the tops of everything, and everything below that is brown. If instead of being 80-foot trees, they were bonsai trees, a quick little one of these, and most of those needles would fall off and the tree would look a lot better. But I was looking at those the other day and I was thinking to myself, if those were my bonsai trees and they look like that, I would probably be worried. And yet that's just them being them. So pine trees will will have a point where their second year or third year needles, I think with black pines, it'd be the third year needle. They just start to yellow, and they will do that, and they'll do that in large numbers. And if it's your first time to see that, that can be worrisome. So yeah, there are all kind of reasons why your pine trees could experience yellow needles. Like these guys right here, I keep looking in and I see more of them. I mean, it'll be one or two. But see, that came out really easily. And the reason it came out really easily is it was a spent needle. It had hung out for 3 years, done its job, and at year 3, it pushes out a little further. And at that point, sometimes you'll see a yellow needle, and I'll try to remove it, and I'm just like, grabbing a kid by the cheek, pulling them around a little, and that's a needle that's not ready to give up yet. Leave it alone. Don't go yanking on it really hard. You'll tear a bud off. I have done that. Sucks, but yeah, I've done that. This is what I'm talking about as far as probably that little damage you see there. That is probably where the tips got bent over, where it did one of those. And just like that little line you can see in my finger, that is what would cause those marks. There's also some bugs that would cause that, but in this case, I pretty much know that this tree was just that much too tall to fit in my car without potentially doing that to some of the needles. So that's what I would have expected to see there, and that's what we see there. So yeah, when I was talking Japanese black pine, I didn't even hardly go into the new literati acquisition, and yeah, I'm really happy to see this guy, and I'm really glad to add this to the mix. Looking at the cork bark oak, I'm still feeding it. I'll probably just feed it around the clock. I mean, around the calendar. It's still doing exactly what it's been doing. Every time I point a camera at it, I just go on and on about the amount of buds that it's pushing out. And every couple of weeks, I'll just clip the ends, and then it'll take those clipped ends and divide those. So we are seeing so much growth from this guy. I can go on enough, but it would be hard to go on. I can't almost go on enough about how happy I am with all the new growth. And you can see all that new little yellow / salmon colored stuff is flushing out. And if I rotated this around, you would see a lot more from the other side. This is also time of year to maybe think about mixing up some neem and going over and trying to make sure that you are keeping spider mites or powdery mildew at bay. This would be the time of year where those guys begin to raise their little heads and start causing issues. So I have been doing that some. I'll wait until the lights go out, and then I mix my little bottle, my little Febreze bottle up with neem and water, probably about maybe that much neem in the bottom of that little bottle, and then top it off with water. Shake it up really, really, really good while I'm using it. I mean, if you give it any time to settle, it's settling. So, and then you're just spraying water. So, yeah, I shake it and spray it at the same time. That's pretty well got us caught up. Probably at the mid-month part, probably mid-month part. It would be a good time to do a second systemic treatment, because, like I said, with the neem, it's a good time for predators. Also, the trees can go dormant or can slow down, but they're not completely stopped. And when they're slowing down, the bad guys aren't necessarily. So when it comes to doing those treatments, it was recommended to me when I learned to do them. And I went from not wanting to use them to not being able to kill stuff enough. yeah, all you got to do is go through that a couple of times, and you're cured of the. I don't want to go with heavy chemical stuff, but not to get off track. It's a good idea to treat your trees a couple of times a year. This was a beautiful tree ready for show before I got whatever creeping cress came through there. But not enough about that. I'm going to accentuate the positive and show you with these little salmony buds just shooting out all over this tree. So this has been a lot of fun watching this tree come back. It's doing a very, very nice job of that. So yeah, it's a time to do that again. We did this early spring, and we're going to do this in the summer, just before everybody goes into that summer dormancy. So that will be, I think, coming up in a couple of weeks. We'll do that, and I'll probably do that. I'll probably incorporate that in the show so I can show you guys what it is I do when I do the thing I do. Now, I guess the only other thing I would say is about the pines is if you got as close to death as we all went through with this tree, it was to the point to where it just like, that tree just looked like it was in such bad shape. I thought that's going to be a drag. It's going to be a shame for me to have been filming this tree for 2 years and then have it die in front of everybody. But you know what? I wasn't going to like toss our stuff. If that's what happened, that's what happened. But I think it's an even better story that you can see this 75-year-old Japanese cork bark black pine, of which I am the third person to have this tree. It's doing a beautiful job of coming back. It's flush, it's green, it's doing all the things that Japanese black pines are known for. And as far as I'm concerned, it's a really big plus that one of the things that Japanese black pines are known for is hardiness. I found out just probably how many rules I broke after this thing took a downward turn. And that is a testament to the forgivingness of a Japanese black pine in general. This one, maybe I need to be a little bit more careful with it because of its age, or because I've also learned since then that the cork bark part of it being a Japanese black pine does mean that we have to care for it a little bit differently, especially at 75. I'm going on 77 now. I've already had this thing for over 2 years. Anyway, I've been seeing some of my buddies get pines lately, and they are a lot of fun. And once you get one, get a couple. Don't let your experiences with pine trees rest on how well one tree is doing. I think when I was having a hard time with this, somebody who was an old grower at one of my club meetings said, yeah, sometimes it's almost easier if you have a bunch of them. That way, when everybody's doing, as a rule, well, you know that you're doing something right. It can just happen. So yeah, that's pretty much it. These guys, pines, the white pines, the white pines, the black pines, the red pines, some of those, the ponderosas, like this one, and then of course there's also the Scots. I see a lot of Scots in bonsai. The red pines and the black pines are both double flush. They live in the part of Japan, as a rule, where they might lose all of their needles due to tropical disturbances, hurricanes and the like, whereas the white pines, which have a slightly yellower green but almost yellower little foliage, that's the name white pine. They're single flush pines, and you treat them a little differently. I don't currently have any white pines. I suspect that'll change. Here before long. And red pines, on the other hand, If you had a red pine, you basically treat them the same way as far as decandling and thinning of the needles and all of that good stuff. You do that the same way that you would. You do that the same way that you would a black pine. This is a little parting shot right now where I'm framing up this ponderosa. Man, I love that ponderosa. Can you just see the way that trunk spirals on that guy? It did that itself over its evolution of 175 plus years growing up in the Dakotas. This is, in every sense of the word, this tree and its little sister is, in every sense of the word, a literati Yamadori. Yamadori meaning, we just kind of take that to mean wild tree, but technically it would mean mountain, collected in the mountains. And this was collected in the mountains, and it where it got its age, it is truly an aged tree, and it is a literati for sure with that whimsical style. Both of them, both of my ponderosas and one of my black pines are literati. I love literati trees. I guess I also like straight trees, but the opposite of a straight tree is a literati. At least they have got some curves going to them. They tend to be kind of long and lanky too sometimes, but at least they do have some nice curves to them. We have a holiday coming up. I hope everybody is having a fantastic weekend. I hope the holidays are as good as they can possibly be, and I hope everybody is having a fabulous weekend. Great Saturday. It's kind of weird seeing it be this cloudy. I don't think we've had any rain today, but it's when I get up, the sidewalks are wet out in the open, but they're dry under the trees, which tells me that we've had banks of fog roll through. So everything gets kind of watered, but nothing really needs water. Like I said, everything is still probably pretty much watered from yesterday. I think I might give the Dawn Redwood a little drink that'll probably carry it over till tomorrow. Other than that, I don't really think anybody else. I don't really think anybody else is going to need it. We're going to be doing a lot of water hauling today. So like and subscribe if you guys have not already. I appreciate you. Frida appreciates you. And we're just going to continue to do more and more. I've got some more stuff going on the propagation front. I've got a little bit of news one way or the other on our cuttings. So we'll get more into that in our upcoming videos. And thank you so much for watching.